Hey everybody, welcome back to VGC Series 1, where today, obviously, as you can tell by the huge, it's full screen for me, so it's huge. I have a very big monitor. I wish I had a second smaller monitor, but that's beside the point. Today we're going to talk about VGC Series 1 and some generalized tips that I have for team building and playing Series 1. I put out a poll. Most of the people voted for this. I will be doing some of your Pokemon suggestions. Don't worry. You didn't, put them there in the comments for nothing. I'm going to get to them. Don't worry, okay? But for today, we're going to talk about some generalized tips for VGC Series 1. Now, before we go any further, a little bit of information here at the beginning. I'm not a complete expert. I don't have this figured out. I haven't played in, tournaments. I'm not, obviously, I'm like a world champion or anything. But I have played a lot of games. And I have noticed a lot of trends, so that's really what we're going to be talking about here today. It's not a comprehensive list, of course. I would not have the time to make a list of every single thing you need to know about VGC, from team building to actually making the teams in game, all that kind of stuff. These are just 5 neat little tips for you guys that I am going to try my best to give you, and hopefully they are good tips. The next thing here, VGC is very hard. If this doesn't work out for you, it's okay. Sometimes you have to find your own way of doing things, and that's just kind of the truth of the world here. Like I said, VGC is very hard. Don't feel too discouraged if you're not getting the hang of it right away. You have to play a lot of games sometimes to get where you need to go. But that's why I'm here. That's why there are a lot of VGC creators here. We are here to help you understand how the game works and what you need to do, and give you good teams to use so that you don't have to team build for nothing if you don't know how to team build. And last, like and comment and subscribe. We just hit 1,000 subscribers recently. My 1,000 subscriber special, I feel like, killed my momentum. So, if you want to help push this video as far as it can possibly go, please leave me a like and a comment. If there are any tips that I don't talk about that you have for people, leave them down in the comments. Or if you have anything to expand upon with what I'm saying here, leave that down in the comments as well. Tip number 1. Protect is really, really good. Now, this probably sounds stupid, right? You're like, oh, it's VGC, of course Protect is good. But no, Protect is even better than it usually is. In fact, it is probably the single most powerful tool in VGC right now. Even stronger than usual contenders like Fake Out, Intimidate, stuff like that. Protect feels like the strongest VGC mainstay right now. And that's really because of Terrestrialization. The way that Terrestrialization changes the way the game is played makes Protect even stronger than it ever has been before, and that's because you can use Protect to try and scout turns where your opponent might Terrestrialize. If you think your opponent's going to go for a big swing and Terrestrialize and switch their type on you, just Protect. Take a turn, Protect, get yourself going. That way, the Terrestrialization is not a surprise anymore, and you can play accordingly. And that's really, really, really big. Because with mechanics like Dynamax and Z moves, Protect was important, obviously, but those things hit through Protect, so it made Protect a little less strong. We also had things like Urshifu, which made Protect a little bit less strong. I guess we have Dunsparce, but nobody's running Dunsparce except for me. So because of this, what I've felt recently is that sacrificing Protect on a moveset feels more like a sacrifice than it ever has before. Even in VGC Series 10 on Sword and Shield, where we had all the restricted Pokemon and you could have one on each team, and there was no Dynamax, Protect didn't feel as good as it does right now. Mostly because of stuff like Urshifu. But right now, Protect is so important. Please, please, please do not sleep on Protect. Run Protect on most, if not all, of your Pokemon. And kind of, tangential to this, Wide Guard is super good right now. Pokemon like Hariyama, Flamigo gets it, which I always like a surprise to my opponent. It's really funny. Because of Goldengo, Armor Rouge, stuff like that with very, very strong spread moves, because of Terrestrialization, spread moves are stronger than they ever have been. I didn't make a slide for spread moves, but just keep that in mind. That makes Wide Guard really, really strong as well. So having that one Wide Guard Pokemon is probably worth it. Nextly is about Fake Out, Intimidate, and Prankster. I kind of lumped all these together because these are, some very strong, normally VGC mainstays, but they don't feel as strong as they have in previous generations. Now, there's probably a variety of reasons for this. I can't really pinpoint exactly one. As far as Intimidate goes, there's an Annihilate on like every team. Defiant is so good. You don't want to give that Annihilate a +1 boost because it's already such a strong Pokemon. That, and it feels like a lot of the really good Pokemon right now, well, they're either running Clear Amulet, which if they're physical attackers, they're running Clear Amulet, you can't intimidate them, or they're special attackers like Goldengo. So Intimidate's still good, obviously, but it's not as good as it used to be. Same thing with kind of like Fake Out, because a lot of the best Pokemon are Ghost type, like Annihilate, like Goldengo, or people are running, like Armor Tail for Rigorif, or that's really it. Psychic Terrain, Indeedee is really good. Psychic Terrain's all over the place. It's really the only terrain that we have with a consistent setter. I mean, we have Pincurchin, but Pincurchin's not the best Pokemon. Because of all of these factors, Fake Out and Intimidate don't feel as good. And for the same reasons as Fake Out, with the Psychic Terrain and the Rigorifs all running around, single targeting Prankster moves aren't as good. So, like, T-Wave is not very common on Grimmsnarl right now. Parting Shot doesn't feel that good on Grimmsnarl for kind of the same reason. And also because there are a lot of Dark-type Pokemon in the format, like Murkrow, like Hydreigon. These things are all immune to single targeting Prankster moves, as well as Goldengo being immune to single targeting Prankster moves because it is immune to any status move that targets it specifically. So just keep all of that in mind. Like, these are still good things, but you probably don't need a dedicated, like, Intimidate, Fake Out Pokemon on your team. Like, Incineroar would probably be nuts right now just because it's Dark type and Fire type, and it probably has the best defensive typing it could possibly have for this point in the format. But that's more of an Incineroar thing, and we don't have Incineroar. What we have right now is Arcanine, and Arcanine is still good, it still feels good, it's still on a lot of teams, but it doesn't feel as good as it should feel, if that makes sense. So like I said, you probably don't need a dedicated Intimidate Pokemon. Like, obviously, if you have the space, throw one on there. But you don't need to go, oh, well, I can't run this because I need to run an Intimidator. It's just not as good. There are too many Pokemon that are immune to it for it to be like this huge, overarching, I need to have Intimidate on every team kind of thing. Yeah, that's what I have to say about those three kind of like VGC mainstays. Tip number 3, please include an answer, some kind of answer for Tetsagiri Dondozo. It's very interesting because Tetsagiri Dondozo is probably the single strongest meta-defining strategy right now. It is the reason that the meta has developed the way that it has. It is probably the single biggest contributing team comp to the way the meta has evolved. And that's just because it's so good. If you don't have a way to stop it, then you really aren't going to be able to stop Dondozo from doing what it wants to do. And there are a lot of really good counters to this. Haze has been a very, very popular one. Murkrow has been very popular because of that, and also because it gets Prankster Tailwind. The other Pokemon that get Haze, Palafin gets Haze. So if you're running a Palafin, like, it really doesn't need all 4 of its move slots. You really just need, like, Jet Punch, Flip Turn, maybe Wave Crash. You could just run, like, Haze. You probably got space for it. Clear Smog is another answer that works. People have been running Terra Steel Dondozo to get around Clear Smog, which is very, very interesting because Clear Smog is obviously a poison type move, and if the Dondozo becomes Steel type, obviously you can't Clear Smog them anymore. These are kind of in order from like best to worst on here. Next is Burn. Dondozo does have access to an ability that makes it immune to Burn, and it could also Terrestrialize into Fire type if it wanted to. And it can also just like run a Lumberry, and they really only need the one stopping you from getting Burn and KOing you to stop you from getting Burn off. It still works. It's not one of the most consistent ones. Skeledirge is a very surprising Dondozo counter, and that's because it also has the ability Unaware. So if your Skeledirge Terrestrializes to a type that maybe resists water, or like a neutral typing, like Fairy has been really popular, I think, you can take that Dondozo one-on-one because if you can burn it, you will outlive them because of slack off. And that's really, really like, it's an interesting Dondozo counter that I wouldn't have expected if I hadn't seen it so many times. And last, another good counter is Intimidate. Like I said, Intimidate doesn't feel as strong, but most Dondozo are not running Clear Amulet. Obviously, they could be running Oblivious, which is immune to Intimidate. That's one of the other reasons Dondozo is so scary, is it has 3 really good abilities that are all really good for different ways to counter it. Other setup Pokemon could counter Dondozo, but it can have Unaware. Burn can counter Dondozo, but it can have Water Veil. Intimidate could counter Dondozo, but it could be Oblivious. We will be going into open team sheet for like in-person events. So for in-person events, it's not going to be as scary because you can kind of like pick which counter you want to bring based on which build of Dondozo your opponent has. But for, you know, I mean, most people who play VGC right now are probably just playing like best of ones on the showdown ladder or the in-game ladder. So just keep that in mind. Have something to counter Dondozo. Probably the most consistent way to counter it is to just have Haze on one of your Pokemon. And that's not always ideal, but that's just the way it is right now. Number 4, beware of Dondozo's counters. If you are easily countered by anything that counters Dondozo Tetsagiri, beware, because they are on every team, especially Murkrow. Murkrow's not the number 1 Pokemon in usage, but it's like top 5. It might be like number 2 or number 3. It's on almost every team, and it is running Haze. Like, if you ever are looking at a Murkrow and you're going, I wonder if they're running Haze, don't even ask that question. Just assume they're running Haze, because almost nobody is not going to be running Haze on Murkrow. It's such a good move right now. Just so please, if you get easily countered by Haze Murkrow, have something to beat Murkrow with. Just something that can knock it out before it has a chance to Haze you. Something like consistent. A strong electric move will do it. A strong fairy type move will do it usually. It's very difficult to do because Murkrow can just be sitting in the back and waiting for you to set up. What I've found is interesting is I've been playing a lot of Tetsagiri Dondozo, and what you can do is kind of like bring the Dozo in, and they'll waste a turn on hazing, like immediately, because they expect the Tetsagiri to come in, and you can take that turn to just kind of like wave crash the Murkrow and knock it out before you bring Tetsagiri in. It's very risky, but it's something that you can do. With that being said, have a way to beat other setup Pokemon. Haze is a very good way to do this. Run your own Haze Murkrow. Other setup Pokemon are also really scary, and they are also a way to beat Dondozo under the right situation. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And if you're running some crazy setup strategy, as I do all the time, have a backup strategy. Always, always, always on every team that you build, have some kind of backup strategy, because you're not always going to be able to get your like super wombo combo off. You need to have something consistent that you can fall back on if you look at your opponent's team and you go, how the hell am I going to do this? If you have that backup strategy, you don't have to worry about it. Tip number 5, the last tip, please do not forget that Terrestrialization is a thing. Again, this probably sounds stupid. It's very easy to forget to Terrestrialize. I do it all the time. You don't know how many games I've played where I didn't Terrestrialize, and if I had just remembered to do it, I probably would have won the game. So please, 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 please do not forget to Terrestrialize. It's very important. It is the new gimmick of this generation, and it's a very, very strong gimmick. So do not forget to use it. Don't forget to set your terrestrial types before you start playing battles. I've done it. I've gone into a team builder with the specific thought of I need to have this terrestrial, this Terra type, and I didn't do it, and it cost me the game. Don't forget to set up your Terra types. They are important. Don't just throw whatever on there. Just take a second to think about it. It doesn't have to be like the best thing ever, but like if you've got some kind of Tailwind Pokemon that doesn't want to get faked out, just throw Terra Ghost on it. That way, if you are in a position where you absolutely have to get that Tailwind off this turn and they have the fake out in front of you, you can just become Ghost type and not worry about it for that turn. And that's kind of the neat thing about Terrestrialization is it doesn't have to be offensive. I've definitely won games just by like Terrestrializing my Furrier into Dark type so I don't die to a Dark Pulse from Hydreigon. It's a very neat mechanic in that way where you can use it defensively and still use your status moves. Whereas with Dynamax, you could use it defensively, but you couldn't really use any... You couldn't use like Trick Room or anything like that while you were Dynamaxed. Whereas with Terrestrialization, you definitely can. So just keep that in mind. Don't forget that your opponent can Terrestrialize. Please, if it's a very risky situation and you feel like if your opponent it terrestrializes, you're gonna lose, just take a turn. Click protect, like we said. Stall it out. See what their Terra type is, and then make a decision. If you can force your opponent to reveal their Pokemon that they want to terrestrialize and get them to terrestrialize it too early, or in like a not opportune situation, you're gonna be able to capitalize on it and do all the damage to them in the world. And then just try to familiarize yourself with what's common for popular Pokemon. Like, for instance, Hydreigon, its most common Terra types right now are Poison, Steel, and Fire. And if the move that you're going for is going to get hard countered by them terrestrializing into any of those, don't go for it right away. You're going to have to take a second and think about it and go, what is the worst case scenario here? If I click this and they terrestrialize into Steel type, will I lose? And if the answer is yes, don't do that. These are kind of like, best of one tips, because obviously in official tournaments and in, non-official tournaments probably, it's going to be open team sheet. So you're going to know what their Terra type is. But even then, if you know what the Terra type is, stop for a second, think, if they terrestrialize right now, am I going to lose? And make your decision based on what the answer is, okay? All right? Okay. So in summary, our 5 main tips here. Protecting moves are very, very strong. Fake Out, Intimidate, Prankster, they're still good, but they're not necessary. If you don't have them on your team, you're not going to die, okay? When you're going into the team builder, don't go in and think, I need to have my Fake Out Pokemon, I need to have my Intimidate Pokemon, I need my Prankster Pokemon. You don't have to have them. The format is not in a place right now where you absolutely need to have these things. Tetsagiri Dondozo is very good. Please run a counter to it. And with that being said, Tetsagiri Dondozo counters are really good. Don't run a team that's going to get super countered by them, or if you are, be aware of that and have some way to make sure that you're not going to get super countered. Lastly, Terrestrialization. Don't forget to use it. Don't forget your opponent can use it. Don't forget to do your Terra types, okay? Don't go out there looking stupid because you're running Terra Water on your Dondozo and you get Flower Trick crit and you just die, okay? Run Terra Dragon, run Terra Steel, run something that's not going to die to Flower Trick crit, okay? And with that, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please, it would mean the world to me if you left me a like and a comment. And if you like my videos, guys, make sure you subscribe. If you're watching my videos all the time and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe, stick around for a while, be an AndyLa fan today. And with that, everybody, my name is Andrew. I'll catch you guys next time.